Hi! So a lot of people like to ask me why I like Bella Swan. When I first read Twilight, I was in about 7th grade, so I was about 12. I thought of Bella as any other heroine of any other book that I liked. I didn't see her really as any different. I saw her like I saw and see most women characters that I like. I saw parts of myself reflected in her. I think first, to understand why people like Bella Swan, you have to understand what about her is often said that's not exactly true. Twilight was actually, the movies, actually a huge catalyst to a lot of female-led movies like The Hunger Games. The first really big franchise with a woman leading it, also written by a woman. So I think that if we're going to call out any characters in Twilight for being sexist or creepy, it's everyone but Bella. Her dad and everybody at her school totally neglect her when she's going through her dark period in New Moon, which is actually a big reason of why I like Bella, why I love Bella, because she has depression and anxiety. Throughout New Moon, nobody goes out of their way to help her and like really get to the root of what's happening. Her whole life is not Edward. Like, she has a life outside of Edward. Whether or not you think that's an exciting life, it's a life that a lot of girls and people live. Some people really do just go home from high school, especially high school, and cook and read. Don't really hang out that much with people. It's a common thing. It doesn't make her like a low life or someone who has no other interests than dudes. Gets straight A's and like somehow she's like really dumb. Another thing is that some people do really fall very hard for somebody. It can take over your life. The amount of people that this has happened to is enormous. One, I don't think that people like to admit that. And two, I think people are bothered by seeing things in stories that reflect things that make them uncomfortable. When I first read Twilight, I had never had that happen to me. I had never fallen for someone like that. As I've grown up, I have done that. Now I appreciate them on a whole new level. I really saw that heartbreak, my own heartbreak, in New Moon, and I saw her really struggling to overcome it, and hanging out with Jake and Jessica really, like, I felt like I was reading my autobiography. For young women and women of all ages to have something like that to relate to is really important. For people to just say that strong women characters are the most important ones to represent is a little heartbreaking. Some people just aren't stereotypically strong, while some people can be strong emotionally, like Bella is. Her power once she becomes a vampire is protection. If that's not emotional strength, then I don't know what is. If you see it as weak or strong, that's up to you. But it definitely doesn't go under the guise of the strong female character, such as Katniss Everdeen, which a lot of people like to pit against Bella because she's like the ultimate strong woman. Although I appreciate her character and Peeta's character even more, I think it's crucial to have characters who are traditionally feminine, especially for non-Western feminist type people. Traditional femininity is strength for a lot of people. Another reason I like her is because she's so feminist in her own right. She wrote a paper for school once about misogyny in Shakespeare. She also stands up to her dad and Jake and Edward. She's also funny. At one point Edward says something like, "You haven't killed anyone." Bella says, "Not that you know of." She thinks I think Victoria might come after her dad. She like wants to get him away as soon as possible and does everything in fights and yells, and that determination is something that I really relate to as well. I also felt a lot like her because she doesn't show a lot on her face, and I never have either. There was one quote in Twilight where like she felt it was a relief to dejectedly stare out the window. I know that feel. She's brave, funny, cool, she knows what she wants and she goes for it and has a baby with it. She's extremely realistic. Some people prioritize love, and some people it's a huge part of their lives. She saved him. Also, a lot of people like to joke about how when Ron left Hermione, she got back on her feet, but when Edward left Bella, she laid in the forest and cried. Hermione had a war to fight. Bella had high school to attend. The way Bella goes through the breakup. You're allowed to cry. You're allowed to cry for months. She only had several months, and at the end of them, she really was starting to get better. She was laughing, and she got along with people at school again, and she was getting good grades, and she had a job. She didn't just lay there, even though if you did just lay there and literally do nothing, that still doesn't make you a bad person. There needs to be a variety of descriptions of how people react to breakups. Don't just pick yourself up and move on. And if you're saying that, you probably have never been through a bad breakup. One more thing is that a lot of people like to say that Bella Swan is a bad role model. Do you hear people saying that male characters are good or bad role models? Like, do you? Because I don't. I hear Hermione Granger is a bad or good role model. Katniss Everdeen is a bad or good role model. Always good, because they get off their feet. Women characters are constantly subjected to, are you a bad or good role model? Are you teaching our children the right things or the wrong things? Just because the majority of fans of Twilight are women does not mean that there are no fans that are men and that they wouldn't potentially be looking up to Edward. So if you're not analyzing that too at the same time, in all works, not just Twilight, I am a woman and I do not exist to be a role model. I'm just saying, and neither did Bella. I think it's time to go.